I got into it because my brothers mainly, and my dad's family, everyone started when they were 4, and I just kind of grew up with it. So it was kind of a given I was going to do it.
Jack, do you remember how cold it got last year?
When I was little, I remember going into little kids practice. I mean, my dad was the coach and then both my brothers were in it. So I remember going in and I was wrestling with everyone for as long as I can remember. So I just always knew like a lot of things from it. My first official match was actually when I was 3, and it wasn't technically a match, but I was still competing. It was a little boy that needed a match. He was 4. My mom went up and told them, they're like, well, my daughter's 3, but she'll wrestle, because we were about the same weight. And well, that kid earlier that day stole my cookie, and I already wrestled him, and he recognized me and walked off the mat, and I won my first match.
By default?
Yes.
You're just walking out of it.
But yeah, I started competing, I guess, since I was 3. It's great for me because I live right there. But if you want to go that extra mile, it's great to have it close, because then you can just come out and you can work on your own and you can do what you need to do and get better. He has been with me since I was 3 years old. He has been coaching me since I was 3. I know he knows what he's doing, and yeah, because he's my dad, sometimes we get into arguments. I mean, it happens, but it's great to have your dad as your coach. I mean, like you said, to grow along with it, and then I'm with him all the time, and there's sometimes we'll come out here and just wrestle, and then he knows and then we get to something where we need to work on it, and then I can work on it whenever, and he's watched me grow through it, and he knows what's what.
Count the legs! Keep looking up, keep looking up!
Roll to the legs! Roll to the legs! Nice.
When I was younger, I can't really remember because I was too focused on wrestling, that I didn't really care if people were saying, oh my gosh, it's a girl. But as I gotten older, yeah, and then now that I'm doing more wrestling and going to nationals, and I went to Japan, and they all know me for being a good wrestler, so. They do not like it, losing to a girl, and they do get mad, but I mean, I just tell them that it's okay, and sometimes I'll go talk to them, other times they'll never look at me again. So, but yes, there's definitely been a lot of bad sportsmanship, and there's been a lot of those that I have been wrestling since I was in little kids, and like I said, I earned their respect, and so they know how good I am, and that it just makes them better if they lose to me and they have more of the drive to get better.
Good job, Chase.
It's the most amazing feeling ever. Because I've had a lot of kids that get really cocky and they say, oh my gosh, it's a girl, I'll be fine. And then I go out and pin them and they get mad and back to the unsportsmanlike, and most of them do that. For me, it's great because I've had a lot of parents come up to me, or even like the little girls themselves, their parents and their daughters, they come up and they just think it's great. Like, it warms my heart seeing all these little girls coming up and them still wrestling, and then them telling me that they look up to me and like they watch me all the time, and it's a great feeling that I'm in this. I think it's very important. I'm helping coach our little kids program, and we just had a meet last weekend, and there were a lot of girls there. And it's so cool to see how many girls are now going out. I mean, considering it's the biggest growing sport in the world, but I'm just hoping it stays that much. Like I said, for little kids, there's a ton, and it kind of brings you down a little bit when you see, then you go to middle school and there's not very many, and then you go to high school and there's barely any. It just kind of trickles off. And I mean, it sucks that way, but I mean, if we can get the girls to stay in it, amazing. It would be amazing. I most definitely want to go to college and wrestle, and I just want to do it for as long as I can. I can't see my life without it, honestly. I don't know what I'd do if I'd never wrestled.
Followed my brothers around the state, around the United States for as long as I can remember. I think my first tournament was when I was about a week old at the Metro watching my brothers wrestle, and everyone's like, "You're just so little." And I followed them around, did some AAU, did junior high, then took a break off from that. And then when UGF got that program going, or University of Providence got that program going, it really sparked my interest in a scholarship and being able to advance my schooling through it. And that's just kind of when I started to jump in on it and went through high school, went to J-Rob going into my freshman year in Eastern Oregon here. So they had a girls program there, and then their coach is also from Montana. So then this summer I went to Poplar because he went down to his hometown and did a camp. So I went down to that and just been trying my best there. Wrestling doesn't just stop and start in the wrestling room. Every summer it's like, "Becca, go out for a run. Rebecca, lift these bales. You're gonna have to get stronger for wrestling." Wrestling's an all-year sport at the Stroh House, so. During junior high, it wasn't too bad. Like, everyone was like, "Okay, it's a girl, she'll grow out of it." But then when I turned in my permission slip to do it in high school, I got a lot of looks like, "Why are you in the wrestling room?" Why? Because I think they all thought I was just going to manage, and that was my plan up until when University of Providence got theirs, and then I decided, yeah, I'm going to do it. And with my brothers being pretty high up with wrestling in Chinook here, I think that was easier, and then my dad still coached. So I always had that backing, and the other coaches, they're also my fathers, so that really helped, but you still get many, like, "Why are you doing it?" And it's a lot harder because you are not quite as strong as them, so you have to work a lot harder, but it's worth it. You know what? I actually don't really remember it. It had to have been in Havre, so I think I was scared to death. It's okay when you're out there warming up, you got your sweats and everything on. As soon as you take off the sweats and you're in a singlet and you're walking out and everyone's looking at you, it's still hard to do. Just, you know everyone's looking at you and they're still, "Why are you doing it?" I do definitely remember them wrestling when my brothers were wrestling, and it was a big deal, like, wow, she's out there. And I do remember watching them and thinking, why? Why would you do it? Like, that, it's scary, like, why? But then when I did it, I understood it. And I still have some guys that are like, well, our sports in our school aren't even with you on the wrestling team. But I think they're more and more accepting of it. Certainly placing at state last year, I think I definitely put my mark out there. Like last year was hard being 103. There wasn't many in the state. And so I had a lot of, well, you just walked into that tournament. You walked into that. You walked on to state. I was the only one in my division at 103. But then when I placed at state, I had to wrestle to get to that spot. And that really, I think, got their acceptance for me to be on the team. This year, once again, it was hard, but it's getting there. Oh man, well, 103, you're gonna be one of the first matches. I ended up being the first match against another girl in Montana State history at the state tournament, so that was a big deal. And then I had both my brothers there as Robert was coaching for Miles City. So I knew I had his back. I had all my family was there. It was a lot riding on me. To be honest, I don't know if I really thought I was going to be up there. I definitely wanted to be up there. I definitely worked to get up there, but I didn't know if I was going to be up there. And when I made it to that second day, I told myself, you're going to be on that podium no matter what. You just win the next one and win as many more as you can go. But you got to get up on there. You got to put your mark in Montana State history. And that's what I did. It definitely made me want to continue. Then you step back in. I'm at a different weight this year. It's a lot harder, but so I'm kind of building that back up to should I still be here, but it's what I want to do, so I'm going to be here no matter what people say, and it's just something I want to do, and so I think I've definitely decided that this is what I want to do, and I can do it if I put my mind to it.
Wrestling has always been a part of my family. My dad went to college for wrestling, and he wanted to pass it down to his kids. So I have an older brother, Trey Vasquez, and he wrestles, and so I grew up watching him wrestle. And he came back from a tournament with my dad, and they went to an amusement park, and they showed me the pictures, and I was like, that looks so fun. Like, I want to go to that too. My dad's like, well, you can go on these fun trips, but you have to wrestle. Like, you have to work hard, and you earn the trips. So I started at 6 because of that, because I want to go experience those fun things, and then ever since I've been hooked on it, and it's been something that's just a part of my life and a part of the family, and it's just been just a big journey for sure. I remember being as little as elementary school, and the boys would cry when I'd beat them, and they'd throw fits, and I even remember one time in middle school I was at this tournament down in Butte, and this boy, I always had really good matches with him. We'd go back and forth, and then it was a finals match, and he forfeited it. He wouldn't wrestle me in the finals, and stuff like that. I always was just kind of confused by it. I was I don't know, I never really thought about it too much because I always wrestled the guys. It wasn't different to me. So I always was confused, but my dad would be like, you're just too tough for them. Just keep going, you're fine. And I was always like, okay. So I never really felt too bad about it. I've grown up wrestling in Montana, and I've had success from a young age. So I know a lot of people know who I am, and I haven't had a whole ton, but for sure, when you're out on the mat and just being able to showcase your skills and being able to wrestle hard and win matches is so cool, especially in Montana when it's boy dominant. You're always wrestling the boys, so that's really cool too, just to show wrestlers are wrestlers and girls are as tough as the guys too. Wrestling is such a cool sport to where it's all based on your hard work. It doesn't matter really on politics or money or anything like that. It's all on you, and it's the work you put in, and I find it really satisfying to work my butt off, make these sacrifices, and see like great outcomes. I like the fact that I'm in the room and I can push myself to whatever level I want to go, and whatever I do, win or loss, it's like on me, and it's just a really cool feeling when you win, just being like, just thinking back to all the sacrifices you made and being like, okay, it's worth it. Like, and it's just cool to push yourself to that brink. Wrestling pushes you there, and to be able to get there and push past it is like such like a great feeling. Like, can't describe it for sure. Yeah, it was crazy. As a freshman, I came in and I had expectations to place, but once I got to the tournament, it was really intimidating, seeing all these kids. And I remember my freshman year, there's a lot of juniors and seniors at 103, and that scared me. I was like, oh, I expected a bunch of other freshmen, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember that was pretty scary too, and walked in, had a lot of butterflies, but again, I had my family there to support me, and they talked me through it, and that was awesome to have them. And I remember I made it through the first day, and it's a sigh of relief, but you know, I got my stuff on, went and cut my weight, and then the next day we weighed in, and I remember walking in there, and I go to weigh in, this lady goes, are you here to weigh in, sweetie? And I was like, yes, I'm here to weigh in, and she goes, like, her eyes get all big, and she's like, oh, okay, right here. Walks me back over to where I weighed in on the first day, and I remember I go to weigh in, and they didn't have a Saturday competitor badge for girls. Like, if you make second day at state, you get a badge so you can get on the floor. They didn't have that in the weigh-ins. They barely even had the scale in there. I walked in and they're like, oh, like, they set me on the scale, I made my weight, and they're like, oh, we gotta go get you a Saturday's competitor badge. Like, they didn't expect a girl to make it the second day at state. And so that really lit my fire for the second day. I remember I walked out there, I threw on my badge, and I put on my hood, listened to my music, and I was like, I am ready to wrestle today. I will place. Like, this is gonna mean a lot to me. And I remember that was a big fire for me that day. You know, I 100% think it's the person I am today because of wrestling. I've been to a lot of places due to the things I've done in wrestling. So I've been like to the OTC, and this is a big thing they taught us there, is that you're not always going to be like able to compete and stuff. So what's the person outside of your wrestling? Like, who are you outside of the mat? What do you stand for? Like, what do you represent? Like, the type of person you are. And wrestling has taught me so much. It's such a valuable sport. I've learned discipline, self-love. I've learned how to stay healthy. Like, all these different things that I will carry with myself throughout my whole life due to wrestling is literally like the most like proudest thing I can be. It's just what wrestling has helped me become and the person I am because of it, for sure. Like, all my accolades are awesome, but at the end of the day, it's me, and I'm really happy about that wrestling's taught me so much. The future is scary to me. Holy cow. Like, when I think like years and years ahead, like, kind of scary we're gonna end up what you're gonna do, but also really exciting, because everyone's like, once you get to a point where you're able to choose colleges for wrestling, it's pretty cool. And to have all these colleges want to fly you out and like that want you to take visits and stuff, I think that's really awesome. It's really rewarding. So I don't know. I think I see college wrestling in the future. I mean, I've worked my whole life for it. Like, why would I not take that opportunity to get some college paid for? I mean, that's the main goal, is to have a better, happier life, and wrestling's helping me do that. So I'm really excited for the opportunities that it's presenting me with colleges. And I've looked at a few places, and I think I might take some visits here soon, but I'm not 100% like where yet or anything. It literally just gives me like the biggest butterflies. It makes me so happy just to know that I've had women before me, the pioneers in wrestling for women's wrestling, that have set a path for me and paved a way for me and other girls in this, just around, that we can have these opportunities. I think it's awesome. Like, I'm very grateful for like the women before me that had, you know, the courage to step on the mat when others didn't accept it, or when others weren't supportive. Like, I've had the support, but I know so many that haven't, and so really thankful for that. Like, a lot of it goes to them, and also just like us as girls in wrestling, like, we always have something to prove, you know? So I'm really glad that it's at a point now where people are accepting and we have opportunities, like, just like the guys, and it's really awesome. It makes you push a lot harder, and it makes you really just like see more light at the end of the tunnel, like more reason to keep pushing, finish out high school seasons, do all those things. So I think it's pretty cool, and I'm really grateful that it's more accepted in the US, like just women's wrestling.
I wrote a letter to Ted Hill at Laurel High School, and he was the wrestling coach, and I was like, it was this emotional thing about how like I wanted to wrestle and he can't tell me no and all this kind of stuff, and it was back and front, and I like slipped it to him casually, and he came up to me after PE or something, and I was like bawling about it, and he's like, awesome, I want you to. I was told I wasn't gonna make it past the first practice, and I was gonna quit after that. My mom told me every day, she told me to quit because she didn't like that I was doing the sport, but she wanted me to be happy. And it took a lot out of me every day to do that because it was so hard with the team. Like, we would play this game kind of like dodgeball, where you hit somebody during warm-ups and they have to do 10 push-ups. Well, when you have an entire team that doesn't really support you, everybody's gonna throw the ball. So I kept having to do push-ups. The thing about being on a team with a bunch of guys who don't really support you, it really helps your accountability because they're just waiting for you to fail. Don't really wanna give them that like option. Like say, hey, this is me, I'm doing it. You do everything you have to. I think that's how I developed such a good work ethic. I think we all kind of went into it like I wasn't gonna win, and I didn't. But I tried really hard to blend in, but I never could. But that never scared me. Like, I wasn't really ever scared because I knew I was doing something I loved. I know the exact picture in the newspaper that came out after that first tournament, and I was bridging really hard, but my shoulders were flat on the mat. And so I took every match after that as I'm just happy to be there. Being able to walk out there, and my smile whenever I walked out there became like notorious with me, that I just had this stupid grin all the time whenever I shook someone's hand, and it didn't matter the outcome, just that I had the opportunity to go out there. I'm not really good with that whole, like, being the first girl to place is, like, super weird. It was in that match, that was the one kid I wasn't really sure if I could beat. But deep down I knew I could because one of our assistant coaches had said, he finally made it to the podium. And I looked at him because it was the 6th place match, and I said, no, I didn't. I still have one more to win, and then I'm on the podium. And that was kind of my mentality into it. There was speculation that, like, I was going to be the first girl ever. And having what my coach said, you're finally on the podium. And I said, no, I'm not. That was my goal. It was never to be the first girl. I never actually wanted to be in the position where, like, little girls looked up to me or that I did something big, because it was never about that for me. It was about doing something I loved and achieving a goal that I set my mind to when I was in 7th grade. That was something I've wanted to do for that long, and so getting the chance to win my last match and stand on that podium, it really had nothing to do with anyone else at that point. It was my own personal triumph. My senior year, I got contacted by between like 10 to 12 schools across the country. I didn't want to leave Montana. I wasn't ready, because the wrestling community in Montana, like, they really are like a family. I sent Caleb a 10,000 word email with all of my strengths, my weaknesses, my weight, like why I think that like they should have me sign and everything. And he emailed me that day they announced it. He was like, okay, send your stuff in. So I immediately did it, and then the next day I ended up getting a call from Caleb, and he was like, "We want you to be the first one to sign with us." Probably one of the best honors to have them say, "Hey, we want you to be the first person to sign with us." Because it's one thing to sign with them, but start that program off right. It meant a lot to me, and even though I'm not there, it's still a big deal to me. I'm still very proud of that opportunity that I had there. I wrote a article for USA Wrestling, and it was about entitlement and kind of the gender barriers and everything. You don't call them like a woman wrestler or guy wrestler, you just call them a wrestler, and I think we're finally getting to the point where that's understood.
So, kind of a funny story. I have a twin brother and I had a younger brother, and Riley, my twin brother, had started wrestling previously in 1st or 2nd grade. Well, in 3rd grade, Quinn was joining because it was his first year. He was old enough. He was a 1st grader, 2 years younger than us. And I was with my mom, and we were dropping them off on the first day of practice. And everybody was running around inside and roughhousing, which, I mean, my brothers and I did at home. But I was kind of peeking in at the doorway and looking, boy, that looks really fun. And I didn't say anything, but my mom just kind of looked at me, and she said, "Do you want to go in too? Do you want to join too?" And I said, "Yeah." So I really just kind of fell into it because it looked like fun. On the first day of coaching, made a short speech, just said, "As you all know, you might have noticed," basically I remember him saying, "You might have noticed we have a girl on this team this year, please treat her respectfully," and then that was pretty much it. I didn't face, I don't think, different flack from my team for being a girl, which was really nice. That did happen once in North Dakota, but it didn't happen in Fort Benton. My very first year, we were running laps at the Sims tournament that happens every year for the middle school kids. And somebody was like, "Whoa, is that a girl?" And I turned around and I said, "Yeah, it is," and kept running, because I had a sense of humor. But pretty quickly, because those same tournaments happen every year, especially, and all of the schools are small, none of them come with full rosters, or very few BC kids come with full rosters. And especially, you know how you get that one kid that's in your weight class, and they're in your weight class every year from 5th grade until you graduate? There was a few of those. So I think after about the first year, when people were like, okay, she's not a joke, she's not just gonna flop around on the mat, and she's not leaving, because I was back the 2nd year, it was just pretty much normal after that point. But even in general, I don't think I faced a lot of pushback early on. There was just, I was a little more of an oddity, and then pretty soon it was like, oh, we know you, you're a fixture. I don't remember feeling frustrated. I remember feeling that it was a challenge for me, saying, all right, you don't have the strength anymore. Is there a way you can get around this? So I took it more as a personal challenge to try not to succumb to those odds, rather than frustrated as like, oh, there's nothing I can do about this. It was more like, what can I do about this to continue being, or to regain, in a lot of ways, some of my earlier luck, I guess. My coaches were really good about trying to be supportive and saying, don't worry about it, kind of trying to be a buffer a little bit about that. So I always kind of just went through wrestling as like, okay, you're sometimes going to get some looks, but you sort of become immune to them and you just don't pay attention. You just go with the attitude of, all right, I have a job to do here. Let's just try to focus on that. And most of the time that wasn't that hard. Most people don't make a big deal of it once you're out there on the mat. And you know, it's not like you go out wearing eyeshadow or something, like you don't paint your nails and hold your pinky out and tell I'm a girl, you know, you're just another competitor. So yeah, I think it was the same kind of overwhelming that everyone feels when they walk into the Rimrock Arena in Billings the first time. It's just like, holy cow, there are 12 mats, all of the teams are here, it's a big deal. Well, if women's wrestling had existed in Montana in the college level, I probably would have looked at, I mean, scholarships or you know, trying to get something like that, just because it makes going to college easier and also a lot more fun. I miss it a lot. I've actually looked in town to see if there's anywhere that has open mats or anything, just to try to get some people together. I was so desperate for it. I went to like a judo thing my first year, and I couldn't stand it because you're standing up, and every time they blew the whistle, I would just immediately, it just knee-jerk reaction of like, no, low man wins, you know? There isn't much of an adult wrestling community, not just here, but as far as I can tell, it's one of those things that unless you're doing it through some organized group, you're kind of out of luck. And especially out of high school, you know, there's clubs that take you through high school, but I don't know of any intramural groups or college, nothing like that, which is really kind of a bummer, because would be lying if I said it wasn't just really a really fun sport. It's hard, but it's fun, and you will thank yourself for having done it. Even if you don't like it, go out for 1 year and stick through the 2-a-days.
Going there is, you're just like, well, okay, I got the gist of this. No, because then I was manager during middle school, and so I got to go down on the floor. And I wasn't competing, so I was like, well, this isn't that much different. And then my freshman year came around, and we went in, and normally we go in the night before, because my dad likes to get us to get the environment in. And I was like, well, I've been here so many times, I'm fine. So I didn't do it, and then competition day comes, and I walk in, and I go downstairs as a competitor running on the mats, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my goodness.
Being down in the Metro, like I managed my 8th grade year, so I'd been down there. I'd been down there with my brothers. But being down there on the mat by myself for the first time, it was a lot. Looking up all those red back seats, it's pretty scary, but just, I made it.
I have a medal that says, hey, you put in all this work and this is what you got. My wrestling shoes, I actually have them right here. They had a bow on the right side of my foot and then my initials on the other. Kind of kept these things true to me, and the one thing I really loved about the podium, at that point, it didn't matter if I was a boy or a girl, I was just Abby.
Honestly, wrestling presents so many opportunities. Like, I know this whole interview is about wrestling in Montana, but if you're a girl and let's say you're not comfortable with wrestling against the guys, I say get your butt in, wrestle with some of the other girls in the local programs, start wrestling there, get your practice in, because it's such a good sport. Like, I think anyone can really fall in love with it. And then let's say you don't want to go wrestle in the high school state, We have women's wrestling, like a Montana women's wrestling team, and you can come wrestle other girls around the nation, anywhere in the nation. There's a lot more like options than just boys high school state, but I say even if you're on the fence about trying the boys high school state, go do it. Like, it's awesome, it's fun, and it just teaches you a lot, and it's like a good experience. But yeah, I say wrestling is definitely for everyone should try it for sure. Give it a shot.
Boy, that's a harder question than I thought it would be. I guess I would just hope that it makes people realize that it's possible. And I guess I would hope that it makes people realize that as wide as that gap can be, strength-wise, and as wide as the gap is as we age, that wrestling isn't a sport just for guys. I guess that's all I would want it to really mean, not anything really about me, just I would hope that other people would say, you know, girls wrestling is a good thing, and it can be a good thing. I guess I would just hope that people realize women's sports in general, and women's sports in a co-ed way, can be valuable and competitive and interesting, and that it's worth trying.
While my head was turned, you were sun setting.